Dan and Cory here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another rousing rendition of Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. No Bell the Body Snatcher tonight. He had another engagement to attend to, but he as always is Cory Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
And yeah, I am losing control of my computer.
Why?
There we go. I don't know. It's my mouse is being fucking weird. It might just need, I don't know. It might just need new batteries.
Everything's computer.
That's right. Trump today. Was it today or yesterday that he turned the White House into a
used
Tesla
car
showroom?
lot.
I just
He was
wanna,
holding up the sticker price and everything, wasn't he?
I don't know. If he wasn't, he should have been. I know that's for sure.
We have white privilege.
Everything's computers.
Sexual audio from Elon Musk. I want to start tonight's show by just saying this. We're not going to necessarily dive into this topic yet, but just to give you something to feast on. I don't want to hear MAGA or Republicans, more particularly Republicans, that aren't necessarily affiliated with MAGA, the what is it, the Never Trump Republicans. I don't ever want to hear that you're the party of free speech again.
Yeah, I'd hold it
Because
more on. Go ahead.
That's gonna be the majority of the meat of this episode, is how Donald Trump's honeymoon ended like the fucking Challenger crash, dude. It came down so hard, so fast, and it's based on the, I guess, more libertarian principles that we all knew this man and this administration was never going to be capable of upholding. And that's why when we say things like, we totally get the fuck you vote, we totally understand why people voted for Donald Trump. And I still don't think you should like regret doing that from a principled stance. But this is exactly why people like Cory and I did not vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah,
in 2024.
Now, of course, we got to give the caveat. I didn't vote. I didn't vote for Harris either. I think Dan did. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, nope. The honeymoon is over. What was I gonna say?
You always have to get that. Like how you always have to get that caveat because somebody's.
And I'm gonna go back to what you were saying about MAGA.
I was gonna say something. Oh, go ahead.
Because you were like, more particularly the Republicans and the MAGAs, because the MAGA people, they're not necessarily Republican. They're the hardcore MAGA people are the fuck you vote to the establishment. And I think the sooner people realize that, the better we can go along.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Tell me. No, the MAGAs aren't necessarily Republicans. They aren't Democrats. It's just a group that is just so fed up that they're like, we're going to give this guy a shot. Republicans, on the other hand, the ones who always talk about the Constitution and, and America and the idea of America and the American dream and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps
and
shrinking government. How important the Constitution is, shrinking government. Yeah. That whole group, first off, the whole idea of, which we'll get into later, about the new banking bill. They even got me for a minute there.
The Financial Integrity and Regulation Management Act, or FIRM Act.
All right, buddy, I'll be here right away.
By Tim Scott. Gotta love that.
We have white privilege.
Tim Scott doesn't have white privilege. He's black.
I don't think MAGA people Fucking white people. Yeah, no, that's why I don't blame the MAGA people as much as the Republicans when it comes to folding for this stuff and stepping in line with this shit, because I don't think the MAGA people, a lot of them, I don't really think they really know the Constitution. They saw a guy who was there to throw a wrench in a fucked up system, and a lot of them saw it as fucked up before a lot of other people did. And I give them credit for that. And yeah, there's no principled value there in actual free speech. We're talking about, I guess you know what? No, fucking Republicans too. Like, when were they ever principled with free speech? They tried to fucking sue 2 Live Crew. They tried to fucking sue Eminem. They tried to
Marilyn Manson is taking
Yeah.
down your kids' minds. Yeah, fuck you, all of you.
They're just as culpable in book bans and all that stuff. But yeah,
Did you see that? Did you see that Rosie O'Donnell left the country and nobody noticed?
yeah, I didn't notice. That'll show.
Oh, fuck. I had it right.
It's
in front
like
of me.
it's like when you're a little kid and you run away, and you go and you run away and you go into like your spot in the woods, by your house or up to the park or wherever you go, and you disappear for like 3 hours, and then you're like, oh man, they must be freaking out at this point. And you go back home and your parents didn't even notice you were gone.
Yeah, mom's like cooking dinner. Dad's just watching TV on the couch with a beer in his hand. How was your day? You're still grounded, by the way.
Hey, what are you doing outside? You're grounded. Like, I ran away. What are you doing here?
Asshole.
You've done a hell of a lousy job.
That's actual audio from Cory's dad. Yeah.
I think it's a very rude introduction.
Rosie O'Donnell leaves U.S. for Ireland. Trump team says good riddance. Apparently, she left like a week or something like that before the inauguration, and TMZ is just reporting it, I think. And they're pretty on this kind of shit. Rosie says she feels much safer, probably because she's around all those other white people in Ireland.
Yeah, there's not very many blacks there.
It's I don't know what the percentage is, but it's
I
not.
don't know, look it up. It's probably like
We don't
Portland.
have Bell here to look it up.
But
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't.
oh man, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, no. So for Rosie O'Donnell, to be fair though, like once I distinguished the fact that and I think this was the first time Trump became president, that Roseanne Barr and Rosie O'Donnell were 2 different people. I couldn't tell you what fucking movie. Just the names. I'm bad with names, Dan.
Do you have any idea how
so when I would
offensive
hear
that is to Roseanne Barr?
I know that now. You didn't let me finish. Can I finish, please?
No.
As soon as I figured out that, like, oh fuck, that name is a different person, and it was like, well, I clung to Roseanne Barr because I know she was dope, and I forgot everything about Rosie O'Donnell, and like other than Trump like hating on her, and I think she was on The View for a little bit or something. I don't even know if it was that. She was on one of those type of shows, and other than that, I couldn't tell you what the fuck she did. What was she, a comedian?
Well, she had a talk show for a while in the 90s. She was also in one of my favorite sports movies, A League of Their Own. She plays the third
that's
baseman.
right. She was in that movie.
She also played Betty Rubble in the first Flintstones film with John Goodman.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's about all I can name when it comes to Rosie O'Donnell.
Girl International Movie Database backlog.
O'Donnell, who says she's in the process of getting Irish citizenship because her grandparents were born in the country, points to the fraught political situation in the United States of America as the reason for her move. Rosie O'Donnell says she's ditched the USA for her ancestral homeland, telling fans she and her daughter have moved to Ireland. And President Trump's team says the White House couldn't be happier. Honestly, it's so petty for her to leave because Trump was elected, but it's just as petty for Trump's White House to be like, yeah, fuck that bitch, good riddance. You know what I mean? It's just so stupid. It's just like this Celebrity Apprentice nonsense. The former talk show host announced the move in a nearly 10-minute long video she posted to TikTok earlier this week. That has got to be the most boring video of all time. Rosie talking for 10 minutes about why she left the United States.
It's like, we know why you've been saying it for the last 8 years. Well,
I know.
She had a 4-year reprieve, right? But
yeah, why didn't she leave the first time? Why is the second time so much more dangerous for her?
because fucking Elon, dude, turning the goddamn White House into a fucking car sales lot. Dude, the optics of it. Oh my god, dude. Because there's never ever going to be anything like Trump again. We already know that, right? Like we've established that. Like anyone who's tried to run on his type of platform has like failed abysmally.
Other than like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
But Lauren Boebert, I feel like, other than like the shit she says in her quips and like interviews and how she acts at like anywhere that's an auditorium or amphitheater, she's either giving handies or popping off at the mouth.
You have to distinguish.
Yeah,
Corey.
sorry.
Remember,
OTP,
over the pants.
OTP handy. Yes.
She's a classy lady.
Yeah.
Don't you talk about her like that.
I apologize.
Now she's giving OTP hand jobs to Kid Rock in the back of cars.
In the back of taxis.
God, that's right. Was it a cab or a limo?
Yeah,
it was a cab.
Yeah, it was a cab. Just imagine being the driver.
Yeah, maybe you go down on her, dude. Don't be selfish. Don't be a sexist.
That's right. Absolutely. Thank you.
He'd be right? Who do you think he more likely recognized? Or do you think he recognized either of them?
Who's that?
The cab driver.
I would imagine a cab driver would recognize in New York would recognize Kid Rock or DC. It was DC because it was the inauguration. Yeah. I would imagine they would recognize Kid Rock. Kid Rock's a pretty recognizable face, I think.
I wouldn't recognize him. Well, yeah, I would. That's a lie. But I was thinking like without his hat or like any of his like trademark shit.
Would you call him Bob?
Like, hey, Bob from Romeo. It's me.
Yeah, for those who don't know.
That's a fact. Like I know him. It's me, Cory.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Kid Rock might be cool enough to like be like, hey, yeah, I remember you. I don't know. By the way, yeah, he's not from Detroit.
He never met me in his life. He's just being polite and just be like, that's a goddamn lie.
Did you see this this story about Trump putting pressure on DC Mayor Muriel Bowser to get rid of the Black Lives Matter Plaza in DC? And it's
wait, what?
And it's happening. They're tearing it up, I think, as we speak.
Oh, the BLM.
Yeah, like how it says black, like in huge letters all the way across the street. It just says Black Lives Matter all the way down the road. Again, like super fucking petty move by Trump. Like I understand the pushback against like what Black Lives Matter actually represents. We know it ended up basically being a grift and a leaderless movement. But again, as we've talked about many times on this show, the sentiment of what Black Lives Matter was supposed to be is still something that is good. Right. It's still something
Black
that's
Lives
good.
Matter, which I think on the show that we could say that's a yes.
Are we still allowed to say Black Lives Matter? Is that something we're still allowed to say?
Oh, yeah, just don't say the T after.
Okay. But yeah, so
we have white privilege.
Yeah, Trump threatened to take away funding from Muriel Bowser, and she's actually tearing it up. Now, here's the most interesting part about this. I'm looking at pictures of construction workers tearing up these Black Lives Matter letters, and like
racist as shit.
The amount of construction workers that are black tearing up the Black Lives Matter.
That's bad.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help but giggle. But yeah, that's yeah, they don't care. They're getting paid.
Is there? Yeah, they probably don't. They probably really don't. Like I feel like I don't know every single black person, and they're not a monolith. But like,
you don't?
The black people that are in my circle are like in the same struggle as like you or I when it comes to like everyday living. And that sign didn't do anything for me
or them.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No, I mean, like me, that's like a paraphrase. That's me paraphrasing them. It's like essentially what they were saying.
White people.
But like that side didn't do anything for me. It didn't make my life any better. It didn't help. Like, I mean,
honestly, Cory,
again,
that's
there's probably a ton of black people that this really is a big deal to them and they care about this shit. And it's like, I also understand that. I'm just saying that, like about those workers tearing it out. They're probably like, I don't give a fuck. I'll be getting paid.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx is really broken up about it. He thinks that Black American social efforts took a step back with the destruction of the Black Lives Matter Plaza in D.C. He remembers the effort it took to get the thing built in the first place.
Well, see, so it would be cool if Trump put up like a. Well, isn't he talking about putting up a statue of Martin Luther King though? Look that up real quick.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it'd be probably a really quick Google, because I feel like during Black History Month, he was doing the whole photo thing, right? And he had a bunch of black people there, and he, I think he said something about putting up a Martin Luther King thing.
I don't know. ChatGPT doesn't seem to think so.
It's not a ChatGPT.
Fucking
that's probably a headline.
Fucking woke ChatGPT is what that is. Doesn't want to give Donald Trump any credit. I mean, it knows what it's talking about. It says there's no evidence that reports suggesting that Donald Trump has plans to build a Martin Luther King statue. However, there was some controversy during his presidency regarding a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. in the Oval Office. Journalists mistakenly reported that it had been removed, but it turned out to be a misunderstanding, as the bust was simply obscured from view.
He's putting a Kobe and an Ali statue, Kobe and Ali statues in the National Garden of American Heroes.
There you go.
I thought I heard something about MLK as well. Here's a picture with him with Tiger Woods. Hey,
MLK's probably already. MLK's probably already in there. I would at least I would hope.
Probably.
He really fucked up if he wasn't.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx is pretty broken up about it. I wonder what Diddy thinks.
I saw. Is it still the same thing as it was on the street, or there's an actual memorial there now?
No, it was just like the written in yellow lines all the way across the road.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what's being ripped up.
When I went to DC, I saw that, and then I saw a bunch of spray paint on Andrew Jackson's statue because it's like at the end of that, and it's like in this park when you're walking. You've been to DC, right?
Yeah, I mean, a while. It's been a while, but
right.
Yeah.
But it's the Jackson statue, and then I think right there is the White House. But well, we went and saw like the Black Lives Matter thing written in the street, and then we're walking past the Jackson statue, and at this point it had barricades on it, but like around it, but like there was like spray paint on it and shit, and I saw that and I was like, yeah, it makes a little sense. Like I'm not saying I agree with defacing just like something that's history. It's there to be looked at, and like you talk about it in today's context and be like, yeah, like he did these things that are wrong, and we know they're wrong now, and it's important to look back at how people did wrong things.
Leave it to me. Yeah, but I mean, leave it to me.
But like when I saw,
like,
I guess what I'm saying is I didn't approve of the graffiti. When I saw it, it was like, yeah, that makes 100% sense.
Those damn kids. I got one even worse because leave it to me to look like the robotic libertarian here. But it's like, you want to talk about wasting tax dollars to have a spray painted dick cleaned off of Andrew Jackson's face? You know, it's just like, who are you helping? Who are you helping by doing this? By defacing public property. How dare you?
Yeah, you're not making anyone happy.
Ew, gross.
Ew, gross.
It's probably all white people too, dude. It's probably every single one.
I think there's a lot of black people in DC. Actually, it's not like Portland.
No,
because there was another protest going on when I was there, and there was
Cory. You're
saying like who did the
the defaced Andrew Jackson.
Fucking white people.
Yeah, dude, there's a ton of wild ass videos that came out during the protests. Like for example, when I went to the ones in Detroit, it wasn't put on by BLM. It was put on by a local, activist, Tristan Ahmad.
Which is why there was no violence?
Well, I don't know. That's tough to say.
Some might say.
It's tough to say. Well, the FBI, that we've talked about on the show multiple times, the FBI infiltrates both left and right activist groups. And it's interesting that, and they'll send in outside agitators and things like that. And the ones in the city didn't have any, there was some violence. I saw a cop window busted out, and shit like that, but it wasn't outright rioting like you saw in other cities. And then what's interesting though, is if you look up the George Floyd protests, there were videos of, there was a video like you ever see it? It's a basic battlefield, you know what I mean? Like the trenches in the street, the cops are on this side, the protesters on that side. There's about 50 feet between the two. And at one of these protests I was watching, all the majority of black people were on this side.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
And they're all yelling back and forth or whatever, and a brick got thrown. And then, you see the cops put their shields up, and then they start marching forward, and then you see all these black people grabbing this scrawny ass little fucking white boy to the front of the line and pushing him towards the cop, yelling he's the one that threw it. Like they weren't they were there to speak their mind. And then an outside agitator came in and fucking it was probably Antifa, because those were the ones that were pulling that wonky shit.
Yeah, and there is the interesting question of why were there just random pallets of bricks? You remember that during I think it was the Minneapolis protests? There's just pallets of bricks. Like, where did the bricks come from? Why are there just pallets
but
of
I
bricks?
think that I remember going through this with someone because they brought this up during that, and I looked into it and it was trying to debunk it. And I think that in some of those areas there was construction going on.
You couldn't debunk it.
You couldn't debunk it. No, and objectively there were pallets of bricks on the side of the road, and it is pretty fucking weird. What's even weirder is when you would see the video of the guy with the black umbrella. You ever see that video at the AutoZone?
Yeah.
When he just starts smashing the windows on the AutoZone, and a bunch of black people run up and tell him to knock that shit off, and he tries to hit him with the hammer and then scoots out. And then all of a sudden everyone was talking about how black umbrella typically signifies agent, so the cops know and shit like that. And there's that all is tinfoil hat shit, right?
That sounds Pepe Sylvia a little bit there, because I have a black umbrella. So yeah.
Oh shit, buddy! I gotta dig a little deeper. There's no Pepe Sylvia. You gotta be kidding me! I got boxes full of Pepe.
You said you have a black umbrella.
Yeah, I do have a black umbrella. Yeah, I'm a Fed. Just so everybody knows.
Go ahead and jot that down.
just so You've done a hell of a lousy job.
Hey, relax, Donald. I need to get all bent out of shape.
But where were we going? We were talking about the protests.
I think we were done with it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Signaling because I've been to protests.
We can move on. I guess I would just finish it up by saying the Trump administration threatening to take away funding from Muriel Bowser if she doesn't remove the Black Lives Matter road writing. Really fucking petty. But also
because it's outside his bedroom window, which is pretty comical actually.
No, it kind of is. You can see the White House way off in the distance, but you
can't.
It's
on the street, walking towards the White House.
Right. Yeah. You could. I'm actually looking at a picture right now. It's kind of off in the distance. But again, dude.
But it looks way closer. That was probably like a lens. You know what I mean? Because they had to catch all of Black Lives Matter. When you're standing at the B, I believe it's one street, and then the Andrew Jackson statue, and then there's a little bit of a hill and a sidewalk, and then you're at the gate where you can sit there and look at the White House and wave to the president.
So it's just you're sitting there wanting to be the anti-establishment person. Don't you think you have a little bit more to worry about than to waste DC tax dollars or force Muriel Bowser to waste DC tax dollars to tear up some fucking road paint? And it's just a little silly. It's just who gives a fuck? I understand what it symbolizes to certain people and they don't like it, but who the fuck cares?
Yeah, because fundamentally, like you have to definitely differentiate, right? Like between Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter TM trademark.
Yeah, if you if you really wanted to show them
the people
really
the people participating in those protests and the people that were there in absolutely good faith. The people that were organizing in the Black Lives Matter like organization,
yeah,
that money did the same thing that the NRA did. You know, it was buying
and if he
those
really
mansions and shit. The NRA got busted for the same shit.
if he really wanted to show them, Cory, he would have forced Muriel Bowser to take out the black and replace it with the word all. Now that would have been some petty ass shit.
That would have been some petty ass shit.
Nobody's ever been hit like that.
It's all performative anyways. That's frustrating.
It's, 100%. It's all bullshit.
This
we have white privilege.
But I'd like to see it to where, like, obviously, like,
there you go. That's how I feel too, Cory.
Celebrating and enjoying and taking part in everyone else's individual cultures, color, creed, religion, and being able to live in a homogenized type society where we're all able to be unique and different and stuff like that as a culture and as a society is great. But I don't think that our government should be doing any sort of legislation that hurts, that like does anything that hurts any one of those cultures or religions, or does something that makes them get like an advantage over the other ones, because then it's also kind of racist. Because look, I mean, like for example, right? And you don't want this because then what it creates a pendulum, and the pendulum,
the white
like,
savior.
swings. Right. Well, that, but like for years and years and years and years and years, the law and stuff was definitely written in favor of the white man. And look what it did to everyone else.
I didn't mean to burp in the middle of that because what you just said was true.
Yeah. Like you don't want that to swing in the opposite direction and then another group get oppressed. You know what I mean?
Sorry.
And I'm not even like saying,
I'm white.
I don't like it's coming back. I mean, it's not about me necessarily. It's that pendulum can swing and hurt anybody.
Yeah, you don't want to get hit with that pendulum.
I don't want to. That's what I'm saying. I want to see policy. Like, who is it? It's not Camille Foster. Who's the guy that talked about colorblindness in policy?
Cory's really bad with names. Coleman Hughes.
Coleman Hughes, yeah, I am the worst with names. But yeah, Coleman Hughes did a TED Talk. I read his book on it. It was pretty fucking good.
Yeah, he's really good with that stuff. He's pretty bad on some other stuff, but yeah, I mostly like Coleman. What else we got, Cory? Oh, there was what seems to be a little bit of an AI mishap at the Department of Defense. You're the one who sent me this story. The fact that Enola Gay has been flagged at the Defense Department website. So like they're going so hard on getting rid of DEI and blaming everything on DEI. And don't get us wrong, I think I speak for Cory, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like we're not like huge fans of DEI policy. However, there is like this, as you said, Cory, a pendulum swing towards like everything is the fault of DEI, right? Which is also probably not the way to look at this. So there was a Forbes piece that says Enola Gay aircraft and other historic items inaccurately targeted under Pentagon's anti-DEI purge. Anti-DEA would be great. So for those who don't know, the Enola Gay was the bomber that dropped one of the atomic bombs. It dropped the first one, right? It dropped the one on Hiroshima.
I think so, yeah.
Know this answer. But references to the Enola Gay aircraft that dropped an atomic bomb on Japan during World War II have been flagged for removal in Pentagon documents as the Department of Defense purges references related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. In this case, presumably because of the word gay. Tens of thousands of photos and online posts across the Department of Defense have been flagged for deletion as part of a purge targeting DEI-related materials, the Associated Press reported, following President Donald Trump's executive order eliminating DEI programs across the federal government. Among the items flagged for deletion is the World War II Enola Gay aircraft, which bears the name of
has a chick on it. It has a pinup girl like right on it. Did they just assume that she was trans?
It bears the name of Enola Gay Tibbets, the mother of military pilot Paul Tibbets. The AP, citing a military database confirmed by U.S. officials, also reported other photos and posts containing the word "gay" were flagged for deletion, including references to people who have the last name Gay. The marks for deletion target women and people of color. Post the AP reported, including reference. See, now this is where it kind of like goes all Forbesy and fucking like virtue signally. But either way, the fucking story is hilarious. They're deleting pictures because it says gay.
What was that? What was it saying about the people of color and stuff?
Oh, you want me to actually read that? I can actually read that. Marks for delete. Oh, the marks for deletion target women and people of color. The Post, the AP reported, including references to the country's first black military pilots and mentions of commemorative months, including Women's History Month. So this kind of goes along with what like a lot of people in just these government organizations are having. Right, they're having issues like, okay, well, what constitutes DEI, which is the problem with DEI in the first place.
You're telling me Trump is overcorrecting all of
it is awfully
like
racist.
This shit. He's overcorrecting the stock market. He's overcorrecting all sorts of stuff.
That's why the honeymoon's over. Is there anything else interesting in this article? Because what it seems like to me is like they just like plugged an AI program in and just let it go to work. That's what it sounds like. Like, I don't think there's people just like deleting anything that references like historically black pilots. You know what I mean? Like, it's just AI gone like run amok on the Defense Department stuff.
Yeah. Given the benefit of a doubt, they probably hopefully had someone that was going to go through, 30,000 files versus 3 million files because like hotkeys caught a couple words.
Yeah, and so
someone picked up on it if they were done, but like now it's like, well, you look like a fucking idiot, bud.
People that are heading up these teams within the government, and I totally understand why this is happening. They have like there's like a lot of confusion going on as to like what is just like actual historical context, but also in like differentiating that between differentiating like what is actual historical context and what is DEI, right?
Well,
because
it's funny, right? Okay, so this is what's funny. A lot of the things that are a part of DEI as its own, like even the words themselves, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that's the catch, right? Like, oh, you don't like diversity, equity, or inclusion. All of the things, like overall, like the main objective of what it's promoting are things that are already legislated for the most part, and they're things that are pretty much like also like a part of normal society of like not being an asshole and doing that type of shit or being overtly racist or anything like that, or just racist in general really is like what would be the pristine world. But you're always going to have racist assholes out there, but at least just don't be overt about it. Civil.
It's not going away.
But a lot of this stuff was in place before the whole DEI movement happened. So a lot of this different stuff. So they're probably like, because they're looking at it like it doesn't say like, yeah, everyone gets to use the same restroom because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, like and everything. So like they're trying to find like, diversity, equity, inclusion shit, and there's probably just a lot of smoke and not a lot of substance to it. So now they're just like, I don't know, is this DEI? Like this was put in place in 1950. Like
it's kind of the reverse of like when we make fun of like white suburban Karens who are like trans people are in danger of losing their rights under Donald. They don't have the same rights we do. And you look at her and you go, name one right that I have that a trans person doesn't have. And they can't name a single one.
It'll be
because we
well,
have,
they would
we
probably
have
say
all
they
the
can't
same
use
rights.
the bathroom that they prefer.
That's
gender.
And that's not a right. You don't have the you don't have the right to just use whatever restroom you want. That's not an inalienable right.
Is it even by law illegal to use the women's bathroom in the first place?
I
like even before like this became a topic. Like if someone just walked into the women's bathroom and squatted on the like obviously they'd be in a stall with it closed.
Right.
You know, and then they use the bathroom and they walk out.
Corey,
you might get thrown.
You
might get thrown out because that's happened to me. I've been thrown out of bars for that, but it was never like, all right, cops are on their way.
That sounds like a story.
Well, it was an accident. It wasn't on
Sure
purpose,
it was.
and it's fucked up. Okay, yeah, I'll try to tell it really quick. So I was at a bar, and the women's restroom flooded, so it was closed. And I didn't fucking know. The place is dark. It was like, Luna. Have you ever been to Luna?
Yeah, a long time ago. Wasn't it a gay bar for a minute there?
It might have been a gay hotspot. I don't know. They had good music and tons of chicks when I went. It used to be a spot we used to try to go to chase tail.
Yeah, maybe you go down on her, dude. Don't be selfish. Don't be a sexist.
And so we're out there. Dad said, fucking around, doing whatever, and like the girls' bathroom floods. I don't know that. I use the boys. Why would I know the girls' bathroom flooded? And then so what they were doing was they were having everyone line up to the boys' restroom, and the bouncer would be there, and he'd open the door, and he'd let in like just girls, or just guys. Place is loud as shit. I had no idea that this is what was going on. The door was open. I just walked like from the other side of the bar, saw the door open, saw the bouncer, didn't think anything of it, walked over to a urinal and dropped her out and started pissing. And then all of a sudden a girl comes out of one of the stalls, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, you're not supposed to be in here. And then, like made a joke out of it because I thought I was in my safe space, the men's restroom. And then all of a sudden this bouncer comes up as I'm still pissing and taps me on the shoulder, and he goes, when you're done pissing, you're out of here. And I went, no, I didn't bring them in here. Those
Nope, Corey, I don't know if you know this, but we have actual audio from what you said to that bouncer. I don't know how I got a hold of this, but sometimes we're able to just get things here on this show.
Can you shut up?
But then he tapped me on the shoulder, and I immediately thought he was saying I was out of there because I brought girls into the restroom. I'm like, because I said to him too, I was like, I didn't bring them in there. I'm married. My wife's out there. And then everyone that's by the door hears this commotion, and then everyone is out in the bar yelling, yo, he didn't do anything. He's just confused and drunk. like everyone's like, I had the drunk defense, right? It's like, hey, yo, just no, they fucking kicked me out, but the police didn't show up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It'd be a lot more convenient if it was just like West Hollywood in California. Most convenient bathroom I ever used in a crowded bar was a unisex bathroom.
To answer your question, I am not going to look this up. I'm just going to answer it. I don't think there's a federal law on the books that says you can only use one restroom or the other. It's up.
I don't know if they actually lose that right.
It's up to because it's not a right. It's not a right. Like, I don't get to just walk into a 7-Eleven and just use the bathroom because it's my right to use this restroom because I want to use
it's not
this
a public restroom. I have the same sign on my door. No public
get to use. Is there a such thing as a public restroom unless it's in a public building or at a public park?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
No, they're all
my
private.
House. I have a sign that says no public restrooms. Just in case.
We have white privilege.
Just kidding. I don't have a sign that says that.
You went, oh my god! I would burn your house down if you had a sign that said
Just Jehovah's Witnesses show up. The guy who's trying to sell you that subsidized gas deal, you just, hey, they knock on the door, you open it, no public restrooms, and you just shut it.
Before we dive in, did you see we have the news of a century that just came out the other day. Did you hear this?
No, obviously not.
That Jack the Ripper has been identified.
Was it H.H. Holmes?
It was not H.H. Holmes. A 2025 DNA analysis of a shawl found at the scene of one of Jack the Ripper's murder points to the identity. It links it to the identity of the infamous serial killer being a Polish immigrant named Aaron Kosminski, a suspect at the time for the murders. Well, figures it was a damn immigrant. Of course it was.
How do they have the Polish guy's DNA from all that time ago?
From the shawl of the victim. Yeah, Jack the Ripper has been identified as a Polish man named Aaron
What
Kosminski.
they they had this other guy's DNA in their database that when they checked that and they was like, oh, it's this fucking Polak. Like
I don't
what?
know, man.
Like,
go read this. Go read the story.
I guess I'd have to, because
It was, dude. It was all over News Nation. Very credible source. Chris Cuomo's on there.
Did he spit when he talked? Like,
Couldn't fix a toilet. I mean, come on. Any other Polish stereotypes we can come up with?
no, saying that he said it wasn't actually
Can
a
you
Polish joke.
shut up?
It wasn't a Polish joke. I was just thinking about him spreading DNA. I'm just like, how the fuck would this guy's DNA be everywhere from like the 1800s, where they're like, when they tested this shawl, you know what I mean? Because they run the DNA through a database. So they're just like, I guess we'll try it. You know, this is from 200 years ago, and they do it, and then all of a sudden it just goes bing, and it's just like,
let's see what
Polish guy.
What the story says.
It's like, what the fuck? I bet you when the match popped up, the person was just as surprised as I am right now.
A historian and true crime sleuth, Russell Edwards, identified a 100% DNA match to locate the real identity of serial killer Jack the Ripper. The infamous killer who terrorized London women may have been it does say may have been 23-year-old Aaron Kosminski, who had long been considered a suspect at the time. Without a doubt, 100% it's him, says Edwards. Who in 2007 bought a shawl that was found at the scene of the murder of Catherine Edos. Kosminski, a Polish immigrant, became a barber. The Sweeney Todd story in Whitechapel, England, and was in a mental health facility with schizophrenia at the time of his death in 1919. Then they show a composite drawing. Facial recognition. I don't care about any of that.
The most years ago.
The most interesting piece of evidence, he said, is a 9-foot long and 2-foot wide shawl that helped bridge history's mystery with forensic DNA. It was in a police filing cabinet for over a decade, according to Edwards. Now it's in a bank vault, likely to go untested by police. They've never knocked down the door, and when we originally did this, they certainly weren't interested. It's curious they're sort of just not bothered. Well, yeah, because everybody involved with the case is dead at this point. Like, who the fuck cares? And their children are probably all dead at this point.
How does he have this DNA of this other guy that matched with it? Like, how do they have a database of anyone's DNA from back then?
Well, now I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
Like, I know that they can gather DNA from specific. Like
now with like
the Iceman. Remember the Iceman? The guy they found
now
DNA from frozen mammoths. I know that obtaining the DNA from back then is available. I'm just wondering how they're able to pinpoint to some 23-year-old Polish immigrant named something.
Now, well, you know how like the 23andMe stuff works, right?
I guess not really, because that would probably answer my question.
My guess would be one of Kosminski's relatives is in a public DNA database, and that's how they were able to link it back to him. That's my guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
What was the 23andMe murderer or whatever, that that killer or whatever, Golden State Killer, wasn't he found through 23andMe?
Something like that. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right, because DNA matches relatives in that sense. It's okay. I don't know why I was actually so baffled by that. It makes sense.
Now there is
deductive reasoning, right? Like, oh, it looks like it matches this person almost like this.
There is
a relative from that time. Yeah. Okay.
is pushback against this. Not everybody seems to agree, but it is interesting that he was an original suspect.
Genetics work.
That was unnecessary.
It was breaking news.
Shall we get into how the Trump administration is proceeding to destroy? Oh, wait a minute. No, we had another fun story before that, but I guess we can leave it till the end. Do you want to talk about the Tesla dealership, or should we save it to the end?
I was actually that was me attempting to do a segue to talk about transgender versus transgenics, because I said genetics. I was hoping you'd pick up on that, but you didn't.
I didn't. I wasn't listening to you. I'd never listen to you. What were you going to say? You got something to say? Say it. Just
say it, bro. Remember during Trump's recent Congress address to Congress, he said that there was all this money going to transgender mice. It was actually transgenics. Now there is a caveat that some of the transgenic studies were testing hormones and stuff like that, and different types of things like that could or could not be used for transgender people. But all of those hormones and stuff that they take are still medicines that are beneficial in other ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
They weren't transgender mice. They were transgenic. They were designed to have the same type of genetic DNA as a human, so that way they could actually test hormones and medicines and vaccines on the mice and see how it would more closely affect humans. But Trump called him transgender mice.
That was a Trump blunder. It was tough to watch.
You know what he was doing?
You're not that smart. I know what's going on. You're just showing off on friggin' TV again.
He does that a lot. He's good at it. He's usually pretty good at it. We got to talk about this Mahmood Khalil case, because this is everything that the title of this episode suggests. This is I would say it is among the most egregious violations of the First Amendment that we have ever seen in this country. I think one of the only things that really rivals it was and we'll get into this subject later, but the debanking of the people that were providing to the trucker protests in Canada over COVID. You remember that? That was a pretty rough one.
If you're a MAGA supporter, it's easy. January 6th protesters.
How so?
If you thought that they were unjustly treated by the government, this is the government doing
fair
the
enough.
same exact thing to another protester who was just exercising their First Amendment right to assemble and speak their mind, which is that's exactly how you would defend the January 6ers. And now it's happening to someone who you happen to disagree with, so you're okay with it.
Well,
it's
interesting
how a bunch
too,
of people on the left were okay with the January 6ers being treated like that and watching their constitutional rights be infringed on, because they were okay with it because it was someone they disagreed with.
Well, it's interesting too, Cory.
And you're seeing how the two parties give each other precedent.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily fair to, and I don't think this is what you were trying to do, but just anybody who might take what you said this way, I don't think it's necessarily fair to tie in all MAGA supporters to people that support what's happening to Mahmood Khalil here.
No, I'm generalizing the other end of the ideological spectrum from people who would generally sympathize with Khalil.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. It's just something that, I had to throw out there. Mahmood Khalil was, I'm talking about him like he's dead. Not yet anyway. He hasn't been that disappeared yet. A Columbia University grad student who was essentially disappeared by the State Department for the crime of speaking out against Israel. And now this did come days after a truth from Donald Trump. Hold on. It came out. Is there something wrong with my mic? Are you okay?
No, no. I'll hold on to it. You can go.
The only thing I was going to say, just to add context to this, was came after days after the truth from Donald Trump about I'm just paraphrasing here because I don't have it in front of me, but the one about, college students having their student visas revoked. And, I think everybody knows not everybody, but those that are in deep know that the post that I'm talking about, and it was already sort of this scary precedent of, oh, you're just going to start revoking visas now from legitimate students because they're saying things that you don't like, that you don't want them to say. And Mahmood Khalil is going to be I don't know if there are others going on. I don't know how many people do know that, but this seems to be the super duper high profile one. And you can't find anything tying Mahmood Khalil to any sort of crime. And even if you could, let's say that you could, the man has a green card and he's married to an American citizen. That means he has a right to due process. The State Department does not have the ability to just revoke his green card.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not even saying he's 100% innocent. He could have broke the law. But the man's a permanent resident, married to a woman, has a green card, and is, you know what I mean? He has the right to due process.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually have a tweet. This is from Jesse Single, who spoke to, I think he said,
but there's no proof that he even did any crimes.
Was an immigration attorney. And you're right, there's not.
And what's this? And he also had security access to the British government.
Yeah, he did. And, the pro-Israel crowd is really throwing that out there very hard, as if he wasn't allowed to have a job for the British government. I actually had that in front of me. Oh, where the hell did it go? Whatever. I guess it doesn't matter a whole lot. But yeah, that actually is true.
PC Aviator just asked, does he have a green card? I thought he had a visitor visa. No, he had a green card, and he was here married to an American citizen who is pregnant.
So the Defense Department, essentially the government showed up threatening to take away his student visa, which he didn't even have. He has a green card. So he has a right to due process no matter what. And the tweet that Jesse Single threw out there from his immigration attorney buddy that I have up on the screen there, talking about this being very scary territory. The State Department can't revoke someone's green card. Green card holders have a right to due process. He would have had to be put into a rescission/removal proceeding, and his case would have to be decided by an immigration judge. Relatedly, he has a right to see his charges. What specifically is DHS saying he did to render his green card status invalid, which would lead to a referral to an immigration judge? That he is even in the process itself is scary and unheard of. There's some unusual things going on with this process, but it is moving similarly to other cases that I've seen. I saw reports this morning that he's been held in the, Gina, Louisiana detention facility. If he was transferred from New York/New Jersey to Jenna, the ICE detainee locator wouldn't have been up to date yesterday. The website typically takes between a day and a couple of days to update, but that he was transferred to Jenna to begin with is very troubling. First, if he was being put into rescission proceedings, it's very weird that he's being held in immigration detention pending a hearing. Normally, he would have been issued a notice of intent to rescind and informed of when/where his hearing date is going to be scheduled for. Second, New Jersey/New York have their own immigration detention facilities and enough immigration judges to handle the cases. So there's no reason for him to be transferred to Jenna. Normally, people are only transferred from detention facility in the location of their arrest to a processing center in the South. Jenna and Alabama is what I've heard about the most. After their case is heard and the government is preparing for physical removal. Additionally, the Jenna detention facility itself has a bad history of prisoner mistreatment. Yeah, I mean, this is really a cut and dry case of an unbelievable violation of the First Amendment. They can't point to a crime. The only thing that I've seen, and this isn't even provable at this point, is that he is a Hamas sympathizer, which, by the way, sorry to say, is not a crime. You are allowed to be a Hamas sympathizer in this country under the First Amendment.
Yeah, and you know, like, yeah, you don't have to agree with it, but it's like that's one of the freedoms that our country offers. Like, and I would probably look at an actual Hamas sympathizer just like I would look at a Nazi sympathizer. Like, what are you, fucking stupid? You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I don't know, it's just a stupid ideology. And
right.
And yeah. And so what's just so, yeah, like what's fucking scary about it is, and like this is what's the most frustrating part about it. Okay. So I guess what's scary about it is the fact that the precedence that's being set, because now you can see the left flipping the script and doing that to like some sort of Cuban refugee, because Cuba is typically turned conservative or something like that. I'm not saying they will, they haven't, that's conjecture, but there's no norms here, and the precedence that is being set is fucking scary. Now, I have faith in the reason why I'm not like on the street yelling is I have faith in our equal branches of government.
His removal has already been blocked by a judge, which is a good start.
His removal has already been blocked by a judge. And it's probably going to get shot down, just like the birthright citizenship shit did. Like, even judges that Trump appointed, as evidenced by a bunch of people that are on the MAGA team, calling Amy Coney Barrett a DEI hire now for some fucking reason. And like, she's been pretty based and just trying to be an originalist for the Constitution. She I don't see this, if this goes all the way to Supreme Court, I don't see them kicking out a green card holder. Like, that would be devastating to our country. It goes against like a bunch of our strengths as a country, that like if you come here and you get your green card, like then like you're in, you know what I mean? Like, that type of shit starts to happen. At what point do we scrape off the words at the bottom of the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, PC Aviator wants to know how we know that he has a green card, and the answer is because he's married to an American citizen. That automatically gives you a green card as you wait for your citizenship to be finalized. And
the cherry on top is she's pregnant.
You know what? Honestly, the green card thing isn't even necessarily the thing that matters in this situation.
Right. Fact so that's where I'm at now, and we might not even be constitutionally backed by this.
It gives him more protections, which is fine. But it's the idea that the only thing they can prove that this guy did was criticize the Israeli regime. That's the only thing they can prove he did.
Yeah.
That is a terrible precedent.
Which is that's the terrible precedent in the first place. Is like, yeah, they're coming after him for words. Words.
And it's a really fun
word.
It's a really
because
interesting...
they don't like them. We saw what happened. We saw the fucking Biden administration doing the Ministry of Misinformation. We saw how when the Twitter files came out, and the how FBI lawyers were like kind of in the back door on a bunch of social media platforms, like telling them what they should allow and what they shouldn't, and like you see pressuring on private companies by the government and all sorts of shit. And it was wrong when the Democrats were doing it, and it's really fucking wrong when it's so much more blatant when the Republicans are doing it.
The unbelievable hypocrisy, and this is something that we warned about when Trump was elected. Like, I sat here right here on this show and said, yes, I prefer that Trump was elected over Kamala Harris. However, the bar is extraordinarily low, and we are going to come to a place where we are going to start criticizing Donald Trump. And I don't know how long it's going to take. The honeymoon phase was nice for a while, and now this might mean it's over.
So a PC Aviator said, well, to be fair, I lived in many countries, and if I broke their laws, I would be deported. We just need to know if this is a First Amendment thing or a real crime. So what I'm going to say, based on all the other people they were deporting and how quick they threw their crimes on the table, because they were deporting some nasty people. We did see some murderers, some rapists, some drug dealers, some gun traffickers, some coyotes. You saw all these people getting deported, and they said what they did right away to prove their point that they were bad. If there was video of this guy out there busting windows or throwing a Molotov or doing anything like that, or like pushing a cop over when he's not looking and like running away, because he would have been arrested if he did that and they got caught by then. Like that would have when he was arrested, not just picked up, And if there was anything like that, like for the PR, that especially with this administration, that would have been out there.
There just does not appear to be a crime here. Now listen,
I know, it's fucking scary, dude.
Maybe something comes out in the coming days, but he was
It's
the
scary,
leader
but I think
of
it's going to be blocked by our judicial system.
He was the leader of a pro-Palestinian student group. That is his crime.
Yeah.
You can be a pro-Israel. You can be and like you can be a pro-Israel person and disagree with this man. You can even hate him. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
However,
your job is to go express your free speech. You don't use the government to stifle someone else's.
This is,
the
however,
First Amendment
at this point, it appears,
you know what I mean, like
that this man's being arrested for words. And in fact, I actually have our new border czar, Tom Homan, saying one of the dumbest things that I've heard in quite some time. Ken Klippenstein threw this out on Twitter. Hang on, I got to pull it up. I got it here. This guy, we all love Tom Homan, right? He's a guy that's he's gonna protect our country from the invasion, as they say. Here we go. Here's Tom Homan, and all you have to do is listen to the first, 3 seconds of this video before I got to stop it. You ready? Here we go.
Free speech has limitations, but
no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Not unless those words are actionable. Free speech has no limitations.
Yeah, and you know what example I'm gonna bring up right now, don't you? You can yell for fire in a theater.
Yes, you can.
It's protected by our Constitution.
No,
now those words become actionable, and you incite a riot, then you did commit a crime by inciting a riot. But if everyone just looks at you and goes, "Shut the fuck up, sit down, asshole,"
yes,
and
you can be removed.
That's it.
You can be asked to leave by the owner of that theater and then be charged with trespassing if you choose not to, but you cannot be charged in a court of law for yelling fire in a crowded theater. Please, fucking morons, stop saying that. Those words are not a crime.
You're punching yourself in the face when you say that.
Shall I finish Tom Homan's little fucking tirade here?
But when you go to a college campus, you incite protesting and locking down taking over buildings and
pause it again real quick
and handing out
inciting protests.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep. Let me just start it.
I literally
Corey,
just said inciting riots, but
yeah. He said protests. He said this is only
First Amendment says you have a right to peacefully assemble.
This is only a 22-second video. I'm just going to start it from the beginning.
Free speech has limitations, but when you go to a college campus, you incite protesting and locking down taking over buildings and damaging property and handing out leaflets for Hamas, who is a terrorist organization. Coming to this country either on a visa or becoming a resident alien is a great privilege, but there are rules associated with that.
So, I don't know, like 4 out of the 5 things he just said there are not crimes. Like the only one is maybe like taking over a government building or a school building. Other than that, nothing he just described in any way resembles a crime.
It's just what's frustrating this to me, and here's what's really frustrating, is you see green card holders and people that are immigrants, visas, protesting shit in our country all the time, whether it's something about Uganda or something about Libya or something about, Iran, Afghanistan. Like some of the Polynesian countries. You see, like when you go to Washington D.C., like when I was there, and I was just talking about how like when you're about walking up to the White House, there's 9 different small little groups protesting some random thing for some country. There was stuff about North Korea. There, you know what I mean? Like there was all these different countries saying these things. And I don't know if they were actually citizens, green card holders, visa holders, whatever, but none of them are being harassed. But when you criticize the Israeli government for their actions and their response to October 7th and how it might be, it's a little overbearing, to put it lightly.
A very mild way to put it, but
yeah, a very mild way to put it. You get attacked like this.
And can I also point out,
like
Cory,
when
that
when other, cultures in our country are attacked, there is nowhere near the swift response in this violent arm of a government punching you in the face as there is when it is for Israel.
Can I also point out too, Cory, that everything Tom Homan just said right there, first of all, like one of the things could actually be considered a crime, and that's like the vandalism and the taking over a government building. Mahmood Khalil hasn't been tied to any of those things.
Right, that's the thing, right? Because he would be
Not
right
one of
away
them.
if he was.
So
if he is, then he committed a crime, and then we take the proper due process steps there. And if he did commit a vicious crime and he's found guilty of it, dead to rights, and then it's like, I'm sorry, bud, like you knew the game you were playing, you're out of here. I get it. Like that's what that's what the law is. But it's like I want everybody to have at least the due process. It's guaranteed to us in the 4th Amendment. No, right to due process is that the 6th? The 4th Amendment's for warrants. It's either the 6th, 7th, or 8th. Those 3 I always get confused. But the right to due process is one of them, because the 5th is
the 4th Amendment. The 4th Amendment is illegal search and seizure, which basically doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
But the
so you want to move on to the Tim Scott debanking bill?
Yeah, because 3rd is don't be quartered. No quarter given to soldiers. 4th is war about warrants. 5th is about compelled speech. 6th is about it's like the 6th, 7th, or 8th I think is about right to due process. Then one's right to jury, and then one's I think a right to a speedy trial. And then 9th is any laws or anything not explicitly granted here is still a right given to you. It's like they got bored after the 8th. They were like, and anything else we didn't say it's protected. And then the 10th is like, all right, we're just gonna give the rest of it up to the states. That's what they did. And then it was after the country was annexed when like 11, 12, 13. And I know the 13th is no slavery unless imprisoned. And now we have a massive industrial prison complex that's privately owned and you can trade with on the stock market. So and we also have the largest prison population in the world. Correlation isn't causation, Dan, but I'm just filibustering. I thought you were doing something. Yeah, I can keep going.
I was. I'm just responding to PC. He said that he checked the law and that marrying a U.S. citizen doesn't automatically get you a green card. It does. Marrying a U.S. citizen can make you eligible for a green card, which grants lawful permanent residency in the United States. But it does involve several steps. So yes, they don't just hand you a green card after you marry a U.S. citizen. You have to fill out some paperwork and take some steps. But it does automatically make you eligible for a green card.
We appreciate you though, like being objective and like just really, really wanting to know all the facts before you form your opinion. Because it sounds like like the green card is definitely a like the make it or break
I don't even
think, and that's fair with me. Like because like I understand if someone just shows up here from another country, and they didn't even sign up their FARA agreement and just start propagating and yelling shit in the street, it's like, what are you lost, bud?
I mean, just for me, and I don't mean to be a dick either, but like the green card thing is like that's not even like that's not even at the top of my list of why this is a problem. The green card is just the conditional thing that really makes this look bad. If you're deporting somebody who's here legally, or even if he didn't have a green card and he just had some sort of conditional visa,
yeah,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, that is a scary road.
If you are here and you have a legal visa and you are here legally, your rights are still protected by the Constitution. And trying to rip your visa away, even if it was just a visa and not a green card, trying to rip your visa away without committing a crime for exercising your right to free speech, which you do have even without being a citizen in this country,
right?
It's a huge problem for me.
Right.
Huge problem.
He said, if I'm in another person's country and break the law, I would expect them to get rid of me. Why would they want to pay for my incarceration? 100%.
Break the law. Fine.
But like, did he break the law, or did he just say words? I guess is like where it's like that's the very, very important part, right?
He didn't.
Not even necessarily the visa or the green card. It's just if he said words, and now words are a justifiable reason to kick someone out of the country, that's a really violation, because words isn't breaking the law, right? If he broke the law, then this is an entirely different conversation.
100%. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
But words
are bad.
And you're right. And it's like he goes, I agree with you. That's what we need to know. And this is a gray area because with the green card, you get due process, without you don't. But like right now, as all the facts are getting bared out, it's almost like trying to talk about a police shooting based on a 30-second clip. Just wait till the facts come out. But as of right now, because there is no evidence of a crime, and we're talking about deporting someone based on words, is a scary, scary, scary precedent. Because if they have the power to kick someone out of the country based on words, then they have the power to incarcerate you just based on words.
Cory, we have some actual audio from the federal government to Mahmood Khalil. I don't know how we got a hold of this. This is a Libservative exclusive.
Can you shut up?
It was actually passed down from Mossad, but nobody needs to know that part.
It's the literal that is Uncle Sam talking to Khalil.
You want to talk about Tim Scott's debanking bill, or do you want to talk about Trump going to war with Thomas Massey again? I'm going to leave this up to you for like 30 seconds while I take a piss, so you pick the topic that you can actually filibuster for.
Okay.
I have a tiny bladder. I'm sorry. I can stick around for a minute.
We'll go with the you go take a piss, dude, before you piss yourself. You're like my son. Like, just stop pinching your crotch and go to the bathroom.
We have white privilege.
Fucking go. Get out of here. Go on, get.
Go get.
So there's this recent bill that was introduced by Tim Scott called the FIRM Act, which was the let me see if I could find it. I don't have the actual name for it, but what the bill basically was, it was attacking debanking. And so what debanking is when a financial institution that you do business with all of a sudden cuts all ties from you based on some sort of relationship like issue or anything like that, or like a reputational threat or something like that. I forget the exact words for it, but what basically is he was introducing a bill that made it to where financial institutions couldn't do this anymore. And that sounds great, but this bill, what it was doing was narrowing the scope, because if you remember about a week or so ago, the Trump administration was going after the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is there to make sure that transactions that you do, the means of your transactions, that like no one's ripping off the consumer, which would be you or I or anyone else that's just walking down the street chewing bubble gum or driving a car. And they made a law back in 2024 protecting everybody. And it was much to the chagrin of the actual Biden administration at the time. It was this guy, Rahim Chopra.
You take forever to say nothing.
I was just filibustering, man.
I was listening.
But Rahit Chopra was the head of the CFPB, and he was targeting debanking, like crossing the ideological political lines with Republicans and Christian conservatives, because Christian conservatives were targeted and debanked over, having political ideologies that might be on the fringes or considered uncouth subjectively by whoever may hold the seat of power at the time. And so the CFPB put this rule in place that not only banks, but all financial institutions, this includes PayPal, Venmo, and all these different type of companies that deal in finances, that they can't discriminate someone based on like basically what they think or how they view things or their opinions. And so right now, the third party, the third party tech companies who are covered under that.
PayPal, right? The PayPals, the Venmos, the Apple Pays of the world, right?
Right. All of those different companies who were once now being grouped up with the big banks aren't really big fans of being regulated like banks. They like the idea of marketing themselves as an alternative to the banks. So they're doing a lot of lobbying to make it to where they're not actually included in that. Like we're talking about crypto, all these different like tech, right? Like stuff that's separate from the bank, that people take their money from their banks, put in this, and this is their use of transaction. They don't want to be regulated like the banks. And so Tim Scott introduced that bill that narrows the scope and makes it about just the financial institutions and not the actual third party financial institutions. And what we're seeing is they're making it like right now the rule is that those third party tech companies can't discriminate against people based on their political ideologies. And the Republicans are trying to strip that away to make it to where the third party technological financial institutions can discriminate against you based on your political ideology.
But Tim Scott is selling it to you like they can't, essentially. If you Google this, you are going to see a ton of articles about what a great thing this is, because debanking isn't going to be a thing anymore. They can't debank you for your political affiliation or your political views. It's like, yeah, okay, so JP Morgan Chase or Capital One or Bank of America or all of those can't do that. But Venmo, PayPal, Apple Pay, if they don't like what you're saying, especially if you say bad things about Israel, they can debank you. What's the other one? What's the big one podcasters use to collect money that we need to look into?
Stripe. Yes,
Stripe, and what's the other one? Patreon.
Oh, Patreon.
Patreon. Yeah, Squarespace
is a website, server.
It's a website building up. So so that's obviously a big issue. But the other one is that the Firm Act, which
right, because if you're on Stripe, and this is why it's a big deal, right? If you're on Stripe, okay, let's say you're using Stripe as a transactional means of making a living based on you just, again, saying words on like a podcast or something, and you lean too far left or
too far right, or too far right,
and it blows up that this is what you're doing, and it might cut across the grain of the current political landscape, and then all of a sudden Stripe gets mentioned, that's the company that you're using for your like for your means of making money, that makes Stripe look bad, or that makes PayPal look bad, or that makes GoFundMe look bad, or that makes Patreon look bad, because it makes it look like they're associated with you. And then so all of a sudden they go, no, we're not associated with them.
Oh, and by the way, they keep your money.
Yeah, and they keep your money.
Whatever is in there is theirs now.
And then it crosses across the whole political spectrum too, right? We're talking about as far left, like lefties like Glenn Greenwald, or even more trivial, like the Jimmy Dorza stuff getting demonetized on YouTube, because I don't know how far this actually goes now, right?
different. That's a little bit different because or whomever, Alex Jones, getting demonetized on YouTube is like that's YouTube's choice. They just choose.
Right. There's not a financial transaction of money being exchanged from one person to another through a third party like a Stripe. But
it's still shitty.
Yeah. Glenn Greenwald got fucked by
thing.
doing this. And there's countless people on the left that got fucked from doing this. Just like there's countless people on the right. And the CFPB recognized that and was working with Republicans to make it so that didn't happen anymore. But those companies don't want that because it hurts their bottom line.
Yeah, no, and the other big issue with and I think you were struggling to figure out what the FIRM Act stood for. It's the Financial Integrity and Regulation Management Act.
Yeah, I didn't have it in front of me.
That's right. That's fine. I got it. The other big issue with it is it's one of the top things within this bill is the elimination of reputational risk. So the act removes quote unquote reputational risk as a factor in the supervision of financial institutions. So this means that regulators can no longer use subjective concerns about public perception to influence banking decisions, which basically means that Wall Street and financial institutions are now no longer subject essentially to scrutiny. Now, as a libertarian, I look at this and I go, this should not be something that is necessary. And it wouldn't be necessary if the government weren't so tied to financial institutions. However, since I'm a libertarian who lives in reality, I understand that the government at this current moment is still tied to financial institutions. So this maybe isn't something that should be at the very top of the things that we're trying to rip away. We need to focus on shrinking the size and scope of government before we get to something like this. Same with something, Cory, we were talking pre-show about the CFPB. This is a part of the federal government that if you had a smaller government that wasn't in any way tied to financial institutions, it shouldn't exist. It absolutely,
in a perfect free market society, which you and I wish in an idealist way, but that's not the realist country that we live in. That's not the realism. In a perfect society, there'd be so many banks that like the shitty banks would because they're practicing shitty business models wouldn't exist because everyone has a million other options. But that's not what we have. Because we have big government that caters to big business.
So you shouldn't be going after something like the Consumer Protection Agency as in one of like the top 1,000 things that you should be trying to cut from the federal government. Right. There are a million things to cut first. So like I'm not, that's not lost on me. As in like a libertarian utopia, which isn't a thing that actually exists. You would have no need for a CFPB. But as things stand, you kind of need it now. And hopefully one day we get to a point where we can have that argument. That would be fantastic.
Right.
Where we can actually legitimately argue that, kind of like how libertarians are constantly arguing back and forth about minarchist versus anarchist. We are not at a place right now with this government and the size where we should even be arguing. Like we can have that argument like for fun. Like I enjoy having those discussions in like a fun way, but like minarchists and anarchists should be on the same fucking page right now and shrinking the size and scope of government.
Right. And then the other thing about this too is when you have a bunch of like leftists now, not liberals, not Democrats, but like pretty true leftists, you know, the ones that write for The Intercept, the ones that write for Drop Site,
or like used to write for The Intercept.
Right, like Glenn Greenwald used to write for The Intercept, right?
Cory, there are leftists, yes, and
but like
Ryan Grimm,
Jared Facundo, Ryan Grimm, you know, when they're all out there advocating for, you know, like Christian conservatives, that what's happening right now with this whole banking thing is wrong. there might be something wrong.
Yeah. Right, because genuine leftists, and you have to like really put that in. I'm not a leftist. I can't speak for Cory. I don't think he's a leftist either.
I have a lot of leftist attributes when it comes to class versus race and things like that. But
right, but what I was getting at is that like
libertarian fundamentals.
Somebody like me who's a pretty staunch libertarian, like I have a lot of respect for genuine leftists because they are at least on the right. Well, they're principled, that's number one, but they're on the right page generally when it comes to free speech, unlike the limousine liberals that we see running through DC every day and all over CNN and MSNBC and all these fucking idiots. And the fact that genuine leftists are so close to being libertarian, they don't even realize it. They just need to realize the difference between government doing shit and being voluntary. Other than that, they're basically libertarians anyway. But those are the people that I look to when I'm trying to get a more left-wing view on these things. Mm-hmm. And you're right, Cory. Like like guys like that and girls like that are nailing this right now when they're willing to. And this is how you know somebody's a genuine leftist and actually advocating for free speech, when they're advocating for Christian conservatives who want to take away your goddamn birth control, and they're right to be able to say that they want to take away your birth control.
Yeah, PC Activator just said, honestly, I can't believe that the host of MSNBC shows are really leftist.
They're not. Because they're not.
No, they're not. They're Democrats. They're liberals. They're neoliberals for the worst. And so the difference between a neoliberal and a leftist is a neoliberal tries to basically stick within the parameters of the economy the economy structure that we have now, which is shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like the market structure that America has right now is pretty shit. It's all big government and big corporations. And the two have this really shitty, toxic, commingling relationship that constantly are just about gaining more power and gaining more profit. Fucking the working class people and fucking the working man. And stifling our individual rights.
Every time I think Cory's about to stop talking, he does it. You have a
and then cadence. No, I'm just kidding.
We've been doing this show for how many years, and your cadence still messes with me. I think you're about to be done. You're not. What I was going to say to PC is if you want to read like actual like principled leftists, and I disagree with almost everything that even principled leftists have to offer. I respect them because they're principled, if that makes sense. I would recommend, who would you recommend? Ken Klippenstein for sure. Glenn Greenwald for sure.
Glenn Greenwald, just for a podcast, Jimmy Dore. He's a little out there. He's a little out there sometimes, but
it's a little out there.
Matt Taibbi. No, Matt Taibbi, I wouldn't even consider a leftist. He just spits facts.
I am always confused about what Matt Taibbi's politics are. I don't even think he knows. Just like we don't sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't know what our own fucking politics are. But
yeah, I don't know what my politics are.
Honestly, well, you know what, Cory? I am a firm believer.
There you go. That's a slogan for a podcast. No politics, just principles.
Yeah. I become more and more like this every day. Where I'm like, my principles are so much more important than my politics. And to so many people out there, it's backwards. It's the other way around. Right? They don't have principles.
Blue. The yes versus them, the controlled opposition.
So they tie themselves to their politics.
The uniparty.
But I also think that's why I relate to libertarianism so well, because I think libertarianism is like kind of the only
rugged individualism, brother.
No, it's not even that. It's the fact that it's like the only political ideology to me that's actually tied to principles.
Principled. Yeah, it feels a little principled.
Yeah, so that's why I dig it. Take your politics a la carte. And do we have anything else we wanted? Do you have anything else you wanted to say about the Firm Act other than it's just being? I guess I'll say I'll give my closing comments on the Firm Act. It's something that's being sold to you as a pro free speech bill. And it's
Yeah,
quite
it's
the
what
opposite.
politics do. It was like when the abortion bill in Kentucky, when it was like that double negative.
I do have one more thing when you're done.
That's it.
Yeah, so the American Economics Liberties Project put out a press release today, actually, earlier this morning, with regards to the Firm Act. It's not real long. I'll read it real quick. And it says, the Firm Act would shield Wall Street from scrutiny, not stop debanking, which I think is a point that I clunkily tried to make a few minutes ago. But it says, following the introduction of the Financial Integrity and Regulation Management Act by Senate Banking Committee Chairman Tim Scott, a bill that would prohibit federal banking agencies from considering reputational risk in their supervision of depository institutions. The American Economic Liberties Project released this following statement opposing the bill. And then it goes on to say, the Firm Act is a deregulatory giveaway to Wall Street that congressional Republicans are masking as a fight against quote unquote debanking, said Morgan Harper, director of policy and advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project. She goes on to say, in fact, the bill would do nothing to actually prevent banks from denying services to people or small businesses, but instead prevent regulators from holding those banks accountable when they take risks that threaten the stability of the entire economy. It's unfortunate to see Senator Scott not only push against the bipartisan mission of ending debanking, but instead spin the backdoor gift to the big banks as defending consumers and small businesses from that threat. Reputational risk is a real financial concern that both banks themselves and regulators take into account to evaluate the health and stability of financial institutions. Banks and regulators both know that when financial institutions over-leverage themselves or engage in shady behavior, they can lose the confidence of consumers and investors, which could potentially lead to instability and failure. Only 2 years after the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank, Cory, we talked about that, Silvergate Bank and Signature Bank, which showed clear signs of reputational risk, this bill would take one of the banking regulators' most basic tools off the table to prevent future financial crises and protect consumers. I would say that Morgan Harper summed it up pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a good bill. Leave the CFP alone. Let's figure out the other shit first before we decide to tackle something that protects the actual worker.
When we get to a point, speaking as a libertarian here, not that you're not, but speaking as a libertarian.
So PZ said, so this is focusing on gun makers and fossil fuel companies, right? Industries that have a history of making flack based on political views. It depends on the administration. That's the thing.
Right.
This is making it to where the administration in charge gets to decide. Because right now, this current administration isn't going to go after the gun makers and fossil fuel companies, but it might go after an activist that gets a little bit too loud on the left side. It might go after an organization on the left that might get a little too annoying to them. Look how the left treated the truckers through Venmo and PayPal in Canada. Look at how different right-wing people were targeted during the COVID lockdowns. Remember the barber in Michigan?
Yeah.
I think he was harassed through his financial institutions.
That's actually a really good segue into the war between Donald Trump and Thomas Massey.
So what's the answer? So no regulation is needed. No, some regulation is needed. It needs to make sense and be way less.
Well, let's be clear about this. No regulation should be needed.
In a very idealistic, realistic way.
Right. In a very idealistic libertarian world, there would be no regulation needed. But yeah, this is not something that we need to focus on regulating. This is getting rid of the CFPB is like 7,999th on the list of 8,000 things that need to be shrunk in the federal government.
Yeah, and I'm not so I don't have answers to like a world. It might be a little dystopian if there was no regulation, but I have a million examples of what overregulation looks like. Just look up the Jones Act.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Look, look up the Jones Act. Look up all the money that Sam Adams had to spend to make craft beer available for people. The reason why there wasn't craft beer for all those years until recently, but now when I say recently, it means like 10 years ago. But the reason why there was no
longer than that. Craft beer's been around for a while, Cory.
Right, but like the availability of it now and craft beer spotting up. That popped off probably 2010, 2011. I guess you have to look up the lawsuit. But yeah, like it's just overregulation. Look up like overregulation is probably one of the main reasons why the fires were so bad in Maui, in Hawaii,
in California.
Yeah, but Maui is just so much easier to explain with like the Land Use Act, the Jones Act, the Water Conservation Acts. Like it's so blatant there. You can get into the weeds. Like you can get into the weeds about anything on the mainland because it's like state lines blur to federal property and stuff. But Hawaii is a straight up island. Like those were all state legislations, and like it's just so blatant.
Thomas Massey and Donald Trump. Thomas Massey continues to be the only adult in the room.
Real quick, I want to shout out to
in the House
Josh
of
Hawley
Representatives
as well. I want to shout out to Josh Hawley.
Oh yeah, he did something sweet, didn't he? What was it? What am I
So he was like
of?
the only no vote from Republicans for that Tim Scott bill.
That's right. And I have my issues with him. I have my issues with Josh Hawley.
Yeah, but
when somebody gets something right, you got to give him credit for getting something right. And he got it right.
Pretty staunchly pro worker and working class in his voting. He's pretty principled on that shit. Remember, he's been on picket lines. He was working across the party lines when that East Palestine train crash happened. I think he was pro when the travel, I don't know what labor unit it is for the rails when Biden stopped it. The most pro-union president ever stopped a protest. And
joke.
But Josh Hawley, I think, was out there with them because JD Vance is pretty pro-worker overall too.
I have 67 Corvette.
Yeah, but you know what? I guess hearkening back, since you brought up JD Vance, I meant to bring him up earlier when we were talking about the Mahmood Khalil thing. I don't want to get back into it, but I do want to say this. Where's JD Vance on that?
He hasn't
JD Vance, the free speech guy, right? Where are you, JD? Come on now.
JD Vance, your silence is deafening.
Your silence is deafening. Don't be an asshole.
Don't get bogged down by all the haters out there.
Easy, George.
Santos.
Need your 2 cents on all that. Trump is going to war with Thomas Massey again for Thomas Massey being the only adult in the room in the House of Representatives, as usual, on spending. I got the truth up there on the screen from what was it, yesterday at about noon. Trump said, Congressman Thomas Massey.
Congressman.
Yeah, like it's not a quote. He's actually a congressman. Congressman Thomas Massey voted to delay the debt ceiling bill from the Biden administration to the Trump administration from September before the election to June after the election, without getting anything for his horrendously stupid move, because he's a man of principle and he doesn't need anything in return, you fucking asshole.
This is a populist like right Trump thing. Doesn't understand a principled constitutional person.
When Republicans,
that's the other problem that America has is just populism.
When Republicans could have gotten everything they wanted, he additionally voted to delay the current budget disaster from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. I was running for office at the time, doing my thing. And when I heard about this, it was quite simply hard to believe. A catastrophic mistake. Now and virtually what does that say? Now and virtually on every other vote, Sorry, his punctuation sucks. Now, on virtually every other vote, he's a very simple no. He can't even approve a continuing resolution when he approved them many times during his career as a congressman. Thomas Massey is a grandstander, and the great people of Kentucky are going to be watching a very interesting primary in the not too distant future. First of all, there is one major lie Trump told there, which is that Thomas Massey, what did he say? He said, can you approve a continuing resolution when he approved them many times during his career as a congressperson? Thomas Massey approved one continuing resolution, and it was the only continuing resolution that actually reduced the budget deficit by 8%. And by the way, that continuing resolution did not become law. So the only one that Thomas Massey has ever approved is one that didn't actually even become law in the first place. So that's not true, Donald Trump. Just FYI. Hold on, I got to pull it back up so I can remember.
Do you have Massey's response?
I don't have it. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't have it in front of me.
But I mean, that's more or less what Massey said in response. He said that's absolutely not true. I have never voted for a CR that has become law. And that's true. He hasn't. He's never voted for a CR that's ever become law. Because here's the thing that Donald Trump is doing here. And I'm going to give credit to Dave Smith for saying this first, because I did hear it out of his mouth first, where Donald Trump is doing this thing that everybody in government always does. They do this thing where it's like, now is not the time, right? Like, now is not the time to make cuts. Now is not the time to pull out of Iraq. Now is not the time to back off in Syria. Now is not the time to stop going after Gaddafi, because there's dangerous things that are going to happen right now. So it's this thing where it's like, now is never the time. Does that make sense, Cory? It's never the time. It's never the time to cut spending. It's never the time to stop doing war.
You sound like Spike Cohen.
Me? Do I sound like Spike Cohen?
But no, remember, because Spike Cohen was saying that in a
I was going to say, I'm flattered that you think I sound like Spike Cohen.
He goes, because he was like, no, like, now is not the time to worry about this. We'll do it in 6 months. He was talking about how they constantly, now is not the right time, to cut this spending. We'll do it later, basically.
Right. Well, and I'm sure Spike was being facetious when he said that, right? He was kidding. He was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yeah. I was just like, Spike didn't actually say that, did he? But that's what it is. It's always a matter of kick the can down the road. It's always a matter of, now is not the time. It's not safe to do it now. It's 2 weeks to end the curve bullshit, right? And Thomas Massey has always been the principled person saying, like, no, now is always the time. And this is the same shit that Donald Trump gave Thomas Massey shit for the first time in 2020 when Donald Trump introduced the CARES Act, which, by the way, was the greatest upward movement of wealth in the history of the United States, was from the CARES Act, which is what really pisses me off when Trump supporters want to sit there and talk about how the economy is all Biden's fault. And as we've said on this show, Biden did not do anything to make it any better, and in a lot of cases made it a lot worse. And we can take it all the way back to Clinton and NAFTA. And yeah, there are other major contributing factors to the situation that we're in now, the 2008 crisis with George W. Bush. But this idea that Donald Trump had absolutely nothing to do with the financial and economic situation that we are in today is utter fucking nonsense. And it's provably wrong. And the CARES Act was maybe Donald Trump's biggest contributor to the economic situation we're in today. And what's interesting about that, and I don't mean to go off topic here for a minute, Cory, but What's interesting about that is that the CARES Act, other than genuine leftists, is never, ever fucking pointed to by the Democratic establishment or their supporters at CNN or MSNBC. What do they point to when they talk about why Donald Trump was so bad for the economy? They point to tax cuts for the rich. His 2017 tax bill, which wasn't ideal. But Econ 101 will tell you that tax cuts, whoever they're for, are generally always in some way good. Wouldn't have been what I would have done. I would have just cut taxes for everyone. But like, that is just such a small part of Trump's contribution to a shitty economy. The CARES Act is the biggest contributing factor.
Yeah. You know, like when we had inflation, you know, like the reason why inflation was like 10%, it was fucking ridiculous. It's because roughly like $10 trillion was just thrown into the economy between Trump and Biden. And it's like a 60-40 split, you know, where I think Biden is the 60 and Trump is the 40. But I'm not so sure to be able to put that like as a bet because it might be reversed. But either way, Trump flushed the market with cash. And under Trump,
the difference and call it just split the difference and call it 50-50. Who cares?
Yeah, sure.
Even if that's not exactly accurate.
But the difference between Trump and Biden is under Trump, the first time quantitative easing was still happening to the fucking stock market. That was nixed under Biden.
That's what I said. Like, yeah, in some cases, yeah, Biden made it way worse. He certainly didn't make it better. And in some ways, he made it a lot worse. There's you and I think you and I both agree on that.
Him getting rid of quantitative easing is like stopping the manipulation of the stock market that made it seem bull for the last 10 years.
Right, which is why the 2022 midterms, I think, was when I had this discussion in my neighbor's backyard with these people that were voting for Tudor Dixon, you know, to be Michigan governor. And I'm with her. I really love her. And I was like,
inside baseball, but yeah,
it's really gross. Yeah, we're Michiganders for any new listeners. But this does tie into Trump because they're obviously like hardcore Trump people. And the only thing that they could send back my way before my neighbor got pissed and threatened to kick us into the fucking front yard because he doesn't like when politics are argued in his backyard. And honestly, it was a relatively civil conversation. It got loud, but I wouldn't say it got angry. But anyway, the only thing they could come back to me with was like, yeah, but the economy was so much better under Trump. And it's like, yeah, and I'm not an economist, but like I know 101 economics. And I know that when you artificially like lower interest rates, and then you pump a shit ton of dollars into the economy with nothing backing them.
In the short term, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Really, really great for a short term. And short term could mean a few different things. It could mean a couple of months. It could mean 6 months. It could mean a year. It could mean 3 years. It could mean 5 years.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the economy always comes to collect that debt. And it comes to collect that debt in the form of inflation. And yes, Donald Trump is in a huge portion responsible for that.
Yes.
There's just, but that's not what they see because people are so. Michael Malice has this.
And then Biden came in.
Yeah, Michael.
To get rid of that jackhammer, I got a fucking wrecking ball.
I got a wrecking ball, right? Yeah, you're going to appreciate this. Michael Malice has this really brilliant quote where he says that people, I'm going to butcher this. This isn't a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing here, but he says that people live in a perpetual present. People only you know that old adage of, well, you got to live in the now. It's like, yeah, that's really cool when you're talking about like, hey, I'm on vacation with my wife and kids. Like, I'm going to enjoy this moment as it comes, right? Like, yeah, in some situations you should live in the now. But also that now
when
is
you're 21 years
now,
old and you go, oh, that's future Cory's problem. I can drink a lot tonight.
some of that now is created by the past, particularly when you're talking about the economy. And that's where I feel like a lot of Trump supporters, they just miss it. They just miss it. They just go, the economy was great under Trump. And I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Like the economy is a whiteboard. And it just starts over every day.
Yeah, it's like the economy is built by actions of the past. The present economy is always built by actions of the past. The future economy is built by actions of the present, which is why you have, but since people live in a perpetual present, they're not looking at what Thomas Massey is doing as being fucking heroic. And they might at some point figure exactly. Now, I will say this, Thomas Massey's approval rating in his own district far supersedes Trump's approval rating, and they elected both guys.
Yeah, according to Thomas Massey 5 hours ago, I've received an amazing outpouring of support since I was attacked for voting no on the Biden level CR. In fact, we just hit $205,000 from 2,500 grassroots donors.
It's so weird that Kentucky is so bad in so many ways when they have the two adults in the room, one in the Senate, one in the House, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massey. It's just
I know, like they have like economically, educationally, like they're at the bottom rung for like virtually everything. But fuck, they sure know how to know when someone's a bullshitter and when someone's real.
They sure know how to elect the right people. But then they also have Mitch McConnell, so it's like that kind of cancels out.
Well, fuck, there goes that theory.
Yeah, right. Like maybe it's just part of it. Maybe it's just part of it.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
It's Mitch falling down the stairs again.
Falling down the stairs again. He finally said he's not running for re-election.
Oh, wait a minute. There's actual audio after he got to the bottom of the stairs.
That's the grossest one. That's the grossest one.
Pooped himself a little. I don't know why it sounded like he
landed in
was...
a trash can.
He landed on a toilet.
It was in the rotunda. The acoustics in there are amazing.
He's not running for re-election. Maybe Kentucky will get it right again. Maybe we'll get a second Rand Paul in there representing Kentucky in the Senate. Wouldn't that be great?
And Mitch was just like herpes. It kind of just kept hanging around because they got it once.
Yeah,
we were drunk that night. What do you mean?
Do turtles get herpes?
I don't know. Google it. Where's Bell?
He's not here. He's not here tonight.
I know.
All senior citizens should have life alert.
That's yeah. Somebody help out Mitch McConnell. You have anything else, Cory? I know we didn't make fun. I know we didn't make fun of Trump turning the White House into a Tesla dealership for a day.
Everything's computer.
Oh wow, everything's computer.
Should we end on that? I do have the short video of him getting into the Tesla here somewhere. Where the hell is it? There it is.
What a wild thing. That's another thing that pissed me off about Trump when he said that when people were boycotting Tesla, that they were illegally and collusively boycotting Tesla.
Illegally,
or it's like, homie, you're fucking like that's the whole part. Like that's
what a boycott is.
Your mouth is right. Like, where were you? Okay, if it was illegally and collusively boycotting an American company, where were you for Bud Light?
There's like that's just such a fucking moronic thing to say. Like there is no such thing as all boycotts are collusion, collusively.
It's for real. It's like
not illegal.
Trump, just shut the fuck up. Get us out of Ukraine.
Yeah,
get us out of Israel. Give me my tax-free overtime. Give my parents their tax-free Social Security.
Give us our tax-free tips, and I don't even make tips.
Right.
I don't collect any tips. And
absolutely. I'm talking about just for me. Like, Make it to where I don't think I'm going to be sending my kid to war in 13 years when he turns 18.
Here's Trump getting into his newly bought Tesla, Cory.
And make it so my parents' Social Security doesn't. And give me that tax deduction on car payments because that sounds great. I'm looking at getting a new car here soon, and a tax deduction on my car loan would be awesome.
How about we just get rid of federal taxes altogether? But that's another thing. Anyway, here's
give me that flat tax.
Here's Trump getting into his newly purchased Tesla.
Oh, what Secret Service go crazy? Thank you.
Dude, I don't even really have an issue with Elon, but his laugh fucking creeps me out.
That's beautiful. This is a different.
He is fucking awkward, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Oh, you got to rewind it. I'm sorry. We
you missed the computer part. I'll start it over.
It's
only 30 seconds.
What Secret Service go crazy? Thank you.
I mean, if you actually drove it around.
Sounds like a cartoon laughter.
Wow. That's beautiful. This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
Yeah, there's another angle that has way better audio.
Well, I don't know if you can hear at the end on that, but Trump looks over at Elon. He goes, "What's this down here? Is this just a brake?"
He's like, yeah, that's the brake. That's the gas.
Hold on. That does make me want to play the other video because it adds a little bit of context because Trump, you could tell I don't know that he's ever driven a car in his entire life. Because of hold on, where is it? Here we go. Trump buys his first Tesla. This is so good. This is a little bit longer. This is almost 2 minutes, but I swear to God,
you can tell he hasn't driven a car in probably 30 years.
I don't think he's ever driven a car after I watch this. Watch this shit.
Hello, President Trump. Are you looking to buy or lease today?
Well, I'm going to buy. And I'm going to buy because, number one, it's a great product, as good as it gets. And number two, because this man has devoted his energy and his life.
We pause it real quick.
He's been treated very unfairly by a very small group of people.
First off, okay, so right now you hear all these people talking about how Elon is bringing his kid around as a human shield.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
Like them two just standing there. The kid comes up to his waist. Like, what is he trying to protect? His dick? I know he's banging chicks all over the fucking world, and he's got like 13 different baby mamas, sure, but like that's his human shield.
Well, that's what he's
60% of his body is exposed.
He's got his kid there to prevent any sort of impregnation of any blonde women that walk by.
A contract killer is gonna be up on a rooftop and go, "Oh, he's got his kid with him. I'm not gonna shoot him."
No, he's not worried about that. He's just worried about getting women pregnant. So he just keeps his kid right there just to prevent any boner action.
Right. Tell you what, his return rockets pull out, but he sure doesn't.
Bop, 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 bop.
And I just want people to know that you can't be penalized for being a patriot. And he's a great.
Cory, what was your quote before we started the show? You can't be penalized for being a patriot.
Oh, I don't remember what I said. What was it?
You said, why don't you ask Edward Snowden?
Oh, yeah, go ahead and ask Edward Snowden.
Whether you can be penalized for being a patriot?
A great patriot. And he's also done an incredible job with Tesla. And I mean, nobody else has a car company started up in the last 30 years that's been successful. I don't think so. And not only successful, but super successful. And because he's able to find billions and billions and billions of dollars of fraud and waste and all of the things. I mean, our country's
Elon's wearing it looks like he's wearing a belt buckle, but I thought it was his belly hanging out of his shirt for a second.
And there's no better team, but there's no better for what we're doing. There's nobody like this, and he shouldn't be penalized. And when I watched the other day, I said, I can't believe it. It should be the opposite. People should be going wild, and they love the product, but because he's finding all sorts of terrible things that have taken place against our country, they want to penalize them in a economic sense, and I just think that's very unfair.
Can I just say, I don't really understand why people just aren't buying Teslas, because I don't really have an issue with most of what Elon has done. We can break down case by case. I'm sure I could find some stuff, but Trump needs to, like, we live in a free market, and if people don't like Elon because of what he's doing at Doge, they can choose not to buy Teslas. Like, that's just like, this is fucking America, bro. They don't have to buy Teslas.
So I just wanted to make a statement. I'm going to buy one. Now, here's the bad news. I'm not allowed to drive because I haven't driven a car in a long
this
time.
$40,000. This
But I'm gonna have it
$40,000
at the
is
White
going to
House. I'm
save
gonna
the
let my
company.
staff use it.
Elon.
I'm going to let people at the place use it. And,
What place?
They all are all excited about that. I'm not allowed to use it. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
One of my great things in life is that I can, I like to drive cars, but I'm not allowed to.
Fake! You are so full of shit. You have never driven a car in your life. Hold on. I wish we had Bell here, and I will be happy to be wrong about this. Is there any fucking pictures in history of Trump driving a car? Does it exist? I don't think he's ever driven a car in his life. Think about it. He's a New York real estate mogul, born and bred. New Yorkers don't drive cars. New Yorkers, either if they're rich enough, they ride around in limousines, or they ride cabs, or they take the subway. New Yorkers don't drive.
So the Independent has a photo of him driving a Rolls Royce.
Okay. All right. He's driven once.
There's a lot of photos of him in the driver's seat of a semi-truck.
and also next to the fryer at a McDonald's.
Yourself.
All right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Trump has driven cars.
Dude, it's so funny.
Is the car moving? Is the car moving, or is he just posing inside of the Rolls Royce? Any video?
Okay,
I need video evidence of Donald Trump driving a car.
This article is from 2014, but the headline is Donald Trump driving a Rolls Royce in silence while listening to Taylor Swift is quite eerie.
Well, especially now, because they hate each other. Was Trump at the Super Bowl? He was, right?
Yeah.
Is that the first time he and Taylor Swift have been in the same building since he's become president, the first or second time? And will they ever be in the same building again? Find out next time on Inside Edition.
The 19-second clip does exactly what it says on the tin. It shows the future U.S. president listening to Swift's single Blank Space while driving his car in eerie silence as son Barron, then 8, in the passenger seat. Melania sits in the back filming.
Gay!
And she captioned the video, "Fun night with my two boys, DJT and BWT."
Ooh.
Of course, it remains unclear why Swift is being played. Could be Trump has been playing her album, the newly released 1989, or perhaps Swift was just getting her play on the radio. Whatever the scenario.
I've got actual audio from Barron while he was sitting in the seat of that car.
Yeah, maybe you go down on her, dude. Don't be selfish. Don't be a sexist.
That's gross. That's so gross.
Whatever the scenario, we'd like to think that even Trump cannot deny that Blank Space is a banger. What a fucking weird article from the Independent.
Well, and that's
like
that's
it's literally
Trump
1,
2016.
2. It's like 3 paragraphs. No, this was
just bullshit.
No, I'm sorry. The article is from May 9th, 2017. The subheading is "The Unearthed Video from December 2014" is being reshared across the internet.
Oh, there we are. That seems like a great place to end the show. Why don't you tell the people where they can find us, Cory?
All right, let me filibuster right now.
You don't have it in front of you. Way to be unprepared.
The page was closed when it typically isn't, but I think my computer reset and must have updated or something.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I am filibustering right now. Filibustering and drinking some Shorts Soft Parade.
You're great at it. And by the way, do you realize that in your process of filibustering, you just gave a commercial out for no reason? For Shorts Brewery, based out of Bel Air, Michigan. Not affiliated
based out of
with
Bel Air,
the show.
Michigan. Soft Parade, 7.5%. Drink it like a regular beer. Be drunker than your friends.
Children.
Soft Parade.
I'm so sorry.
That should be their.
I could do something, but I can't.
That should be their motto, right? Wow, this thing is just fucking taking forever, man. I'm trying to filibuster.
You're not doing a good job.
Oh, no. Forever to say nothing. No, well, I was, Dan. God damn it, I was doing a great job, but now I'm getting the rainbow wheel. My 10-year-old Mac.
Can you shut up?
I don't know what you want me to do. Libservative Podcast is part of all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com.
You've done a hell of a lousy job.
YouTube and Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. And
Go fuck yourself.
The only problem is I can't understand a word you're saying.
Anyway, this has been Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. We hope to have Bell back with us next week to help guide us through. I don't think you realize what a valuable asset he is. He, as always, has been Cory Walsh.
I know, we should tell him in real life instead of just say it when he's not here.
Yeah.
But I would never say that to his face.
No, we don't want to boost his ego. And I've been Dan Griffin. And until next time,
and he's been Dan Griffin, and I'm Cory Walsh.
We are out of here.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back. Somebody must lead, or else the fight would not be made at all.